All right, so on Wednesdays, I usually talk about the news, but it's been a slow news week. Game Awards are next week, so I wanted to talk about two games I've been playing. The first one isn't gonna surprise or blow anyone away, but Red Dead Redemption, it got re-released again. Yes, Rockstar has now officially put it out on Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S versions with a couple of little tweaks here and there, but it's Red Dead Redemption. I've talked about Red Dead Redemption a lot on this channel and on Game Ranks. I checked out this new port that released yesterday to make a before you buy video for Game Ranks. And the way I usually do it for ports like these, especially a port of a port, is I usually just jump into various saves that I have, bounce around, check out different areas of the game, play it here and there, and just kind of experiment and push things. Play through a couple of long sequences, play through some action sequences, just kind of sample all the little areas of the game. But because it's Red Dead Redemption, I found myself playing it for hours and hours more. I was literally playing it just right before this video because number one, it looks pretty good on the Switch 2 screen, but also that HDR on the PS5 version as well, I think looks really good. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with HDR. Sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth, but it looks really good here. But the technical stuff is besides the point. It's released for they're asking $50 for it, which is insane. But if you own the previous version, basically anywhere else, it's a free upgrade. So most people aren't paying for this. And I think it's worth revisiting for the first time because it's a great game. I'm not saying anything revolutionary here, but I just managed to have more to say about this one. And what I love about Red Dead Redemption 1 specifically is that it is such a good snapshot of Rockstar's development and how they approach game making, just following the history of Rockstar, which is now you would say, yes, just the people who are making Grand Theft Auto 6. But there was a time when they were making weird and interesting games at a more consistent clip. And Red Dead Redemption fell at an interesting time because it took a lot of what they had kind of learned with Grand Theft Auto 4 in terms of pushing more serious, more character-driven storytelling, really trying to build out a world, build some immersion and real depth to the people that inhabit these places, while still keeping it kind of weird and goofy and Rockstar-like. Then you also just kind of have moody atmosphere and vibes and even soundtrack composition of Bully. Red Dead Redemption feels like kind of a good combination of those two things, and it just makes for a really unique experience. Just the game itself is a pretty standard now at this point. It's pretty straightforward open world cowboy action adventure game, but we don't get a lot of those. But what I like about Red Dead Redemption is that they didn't overdo it. They didn't want to overload you with activities and try and keep you in this world for an endless amount of hours. They just wanted to tell a really damn good story and give you things here and there that kind of help you have some fun and live out a little bit of that cowboy lifestyle. But it is very straight up, just simple, third person shooting, horseback chasing, but it works. It's the sound of the guns, it's the music, it's the set pieces, it's the pacing of it all. It's also the environmental variety and the fact that you're kind of always seeing different places. And despite being in the American Southwest, you get to see different glimpses of that, different feelings of that. That all works extremely well. But for me, the game is a storytelling powerhouse at this point. It wants to envelop you in this world. It wants you to get invested in these characters. It wants you to kind of think outside the box with these characters because they only give you little glimmers and little bits and pieces here and there about these characters and let you kind of fill in the blanks. And that's what really works for me here. And the fact too that they ended up making a sequel to this game, which is a prequel, and it doesn't really undo any of the mysterious nature or simple nature of some of these characters. It doesn't overdo it or over explain in a prequel. It doesn't really ruin anything. It doesn't ruin the mystique of these characters, anything at all. So I think that's a very impressive thing back to back. But Red Dead Redemption itself as a piece of visual art, music, all that, also just really kicks ass because, there are plenty of moments in the game when you're riding on your horse, the famous moment when you're riding on your horse and the track kicks in, but also the game has a really good skybox at night, really incredible sunrises and sunsets. It does that Rockstar thing really well that I think we started to feel kind of first going out in the woods in San Andreas where it feels like sometimes there might be something more, something can happen, a coyote could run up to you, a mysterious man could come up to you. It's got a little bit of that eerie feel to it. And I think part of that comes with how well the game makes you feel lonely. It feels like you are a man out on your horse out in the wilderness, despite the open world not being that massive, right? And there usually being some sort of town or some person not that far behind. It's just the way the world looks and feels and the soundscape of it that makes you feel like you're truly out there alone. And I think it's little things like just some of the music, some of like the ambient music, the background music. A lot of it is very minimalist and kind of eerie and kind of weird. And that works for me so well, dude. When you're like on your horseback at night, riding across those plains as the moon comes up and the game just hits you with a that shit hits, man. But also what I like about the game, like story-wise, it leans so much into contemplative conversations that kind of pepper out this world and establish this world, right? Like it has fun, like it wants to tell you about Western things. It wants to tell you about like people battling Native Americans or like, you know, the after effects of the Civil War or the changing of like technology coming to the West and the West kind of not feeling like the West anymore, cattle ranchers, guys with guns, bandits, banditos, like it's got all that stuff. And the game does a lot of good telling, not showing, in ways that actually work and don't feel like they're just overly referencing things. Like it's like, hey, this is written by a country western nerd that wants to just reference everything. I think it really works, just kind of help paint out the world. And with the whole thing, like the game just being very contemplative and having so many conversations, dealing with so many things, a lot of it just keeps coming back down to John Marston, interestingly enough, and his thoughts and feelings about, you know, morals, men, violence, and politics in ways that just really help play out his character. Because he's extremely complicated, and that's what I like about him. They didn't just go for, like, they had to make like a cowboy badass guy, right? But they didn't just kind of completely lean on tropes and make him just a complete rip of some cowboy guy you've seen in a country western movie before. He's got elements, sure, but he's definitely his own thing. And it's interesting how it's like he's technically working for the government, but he has lots of conversations about how he doesn't trust the government. He doesn't like the government. He also seems like he wants like a shot at acceptance or forgiveness or something, but ultimately it's still something that he's kind of being forced to do at gunpoint. He's kind of being forced to get wrapped up in all these people's lives and these situations. And he says at one point, like, I'm a man of many things and a lot of bad things, but a man of political principles, no. Which is interesting because it's kind of that Geralt hands-off approach, right? Like, I'm above this all. But like Geralt, John Marston in this game constantly gets wrapped up in all types of political dealings, from the United States to Mexico. He ends up continuously getting entangled in things. And it's really interesting to see this simple but thoughtful guy navigate this. He's like a world-weary guy and not just an outright badass, but only when he needs to be. The game has plenty of moments with great standoffs, right? Like, obviously duels are great, but also plenty of cutscenes where he's the first to draw his gun and he's holding guns at people and people are pointing guns at him, and he can be a badass. And the game has plenty of awesome quotes and lines to reflect that. But again, I think the fact that he's like this unconventional cowboy character type is what makes him so interesting. All of his, like, again, like the moral, political thoughts, the whole family man thing. He looks unconventional. Like, I'm not one to judge, but like John Marston's got kind of a beat up face. He's not the most like handsome leading man guy. And that also comes down to his voice too. Rob Whitehoff, the voice actor, and I believe he did the performance capture as well for this character. Like, I always say with Rockstar, like, where the hell do they find these people? This guy had not really been in much at all, and really hasn't since. This is kind of like his big thing, and it is perfect. His performance is not only great, but also just so unique. But like, he clearly has the acting chops. He does an incredible performance, but also just such a weirdly unique voice. There's something about John Marston's voice that just has stuck with me since I've played the game. And that really goes for everybody. Again, like, where do they find these people, right? Michael Hollick as Nico Bellic, Grand Theft Auto 4. Roger Clark, Arthur Morgan, Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, they just find incredibly unique, standout voices that just kind of work like earworms. Like, it just, these characters stick with you. They have the writing to back them up, yes, but also compelling, interesting, and unique voices. And the game is just so good. Like, you just want to be along for the ride for this guy, like right from the beginning. How he is, how he carries himself in front of people. He's interesting. And obviously the ending is great. It's so iconic at this point, right? I don't know how much I've talked about it in the past, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But for me, the ending, like with Jack, that's all great. But for me, it's the John Marston ending that is the big thing. And okay, like I will touch a little bit Red Dead Redemption 2 and like the additional context it gives, right? Because it's like the shot at the American dream, right? Where like you had Arthur Morgan, who I believe, and I felt through his character, he's the one who could have gotten it. He could have maybe had gotten away at some point, figured things out, but ultimately his story is that he couldn't, right? But he was able to give that dream, that life to someone else. John Marston. Then you start Red Dead Redemption and you learn about this character, John Marston, who seemingly had a life and a family, but is sent to work for nefarious means. But then you get the parallels of John Marston and then his son, right? Where both of them, I feel like, had their shot at like the family life, the American dream, the home, whatever, the farm, whatever you want to call it, right? Had it, and then it was pulled away from them. Where like Jack, you don't want to see him as a gunslinger, murder man, later in life out for revenge. You don't want to see that. It actually sucks. It actually hits, and it hits even harder after playing Red Dead Redemption 2. But like father, like son, it was like they had something or they could have had something and it was ripped away from them. It happened to Jack when he was a kid. It happened to John as an adult. But it's just interesting how it goes down. But for me, it's not even about that. It's just like the John's death, which you can kind of see coming, but just like how it's orchestrated, how it goes down, how the character, how the camera frames behind the character, like gameplay, John opening the door, getting fired upon by the government. And that whole part, no lines. John walks out. He doesn't have a badass one-liner. He doesn't like look awesome. He doesn't do like some badass shit. The government guys, they don't say like any last words. There's no monologuing, no nothing. They shoot him. They shoot him dead. That's it. Then the characters also, they don't say, like the government characters, the agent, they don't say anything. They just leave. That's it. And I just think that's a really, really interesting, poignant way to do it. And I think that right there is a very interesting and good, compelling end for that character. Does John deserve it? That's the fun of that conversation. But for me, what stuck with me again is revisiting this is just the bit before that when he puts his family on the horse. John Marston's doing his John Marston thing, but Abigail's performance there is so good where she knows what's going down. You could tell, and you could tell just from her voice. That actress alone absolutely crushing it. And then when he says ain't no trouble at all, and he kisses her, and then he says I love you, and she says I love you too. Like her I love you actually sounds like a real person. Like it almost sounds like the recording got a little fucked up because it was like a real person feeling that emotion, and it really worked. That's what makes it tragic, and Red Dead Redemption ultimately more like a Red Dead tragedy, but in a way that I think just makes it an all-time memorable thing, a memorable game. I love the Red Dead games. Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, tells an incredible and even more nuanced story, but I like each of them equally for different reasons. Also, and I said this in the Before You Buy, and I've talked about this here and there, but also, man, Red Dead Revolver. Everybody forgets about Red Dead Revolver, but that is a fun as hell, goofy arcade shooter. What a time in video game history. I love that shit. Red Harlow, equally as cool as John Marston. Anyway, I've yapped enough, so thank you for hearing me out. Just wanted to talk about Red Dead Redemption today. That actually wasn't my plan. I wanted to talk about Marvel Cosmic Invasion as well, but I talked way too long. So thanks for listening to me yap about an old-ass game. It's kind of what I like to do sometimes. If you get what I'm trying to do on this channel, man, I just talk about stuff I like and stuff I find interesting. Clicking the like button helps. But before that, I want to know what you think about Red Dead Redemption. I want to know what you think about the characters, the subtleties, just essentially how the game does such a good job. Now I'm just rambling again, but how the game does such a good job of setting up these characters with implied history in a way that you actually feel it. Yes, it's just telling you, it's just telling you about these characters' history, but it's written in a way that you really feel it. And honestly, if you were to play Red Dead Redemption 2 first and then play Red Dead Redemption 1, I think it, for the most part, really works very well. But anyway, let me know if you've played both games, if you have feelings about them both, your favorite characters. Let's talk about this stuff. I want to hear from you. It's a good time to replay it. But also, there's so many video games out there right now. I don't know. I just wanted to take a little quick trip down memory lane. So thanks for hearing me out. That's all I got for you today. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me. See ya.